Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
The contents and topics discussed in this week's episode may be considered challenging and uncomfortable for sensitive listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm a storyteller. I'm a lover of life, and I enjoy sharing my stories and hearing the stories of other people. Sometimes they're great. They're awesome. They're funny. They're witty. They're endearing. But then other times they're thought-provoking and they're sad and they're sometimes life-altering. The story I'm about to tell is one of those stories. Recorded in SFJ Studios. This week's episode of the Silver Fox Journal Podcast. Yeah, me too. When I was 21, I was raped. Bam, I said it just like that. But I couldn't do that many years ago. The rape was, for all intents purposes, stored off in a part of my brain that just wasn't ready to let go and discuss it until it was ready to let go and discuss it. That's one of the biggest parts of being a victim of assault, sexual assault, is to be able to find their voice and be able to articulate what happened to them. I was at a Christmas party for the company I was working for at the time, and there was this guy who had been working from another location in another state, in another city, back and forth, and over the course of, I'd say, maybe 2 months, we had seen each other, but not dated. I mean, we saw each other at work, and we'd have lunch sometimes, and that was it. We had a Christmas party, and it was a blast. I was 21, and there was some partying going on and some drinking, but by no means was I intoxicated. It was more like I had a couple drinks over a course of several hours, and hey, I drove, so I was trying to be responsible. Nobody wants a ticket, didn't want a DUI. So, in a nutshell, this was a person that I felt comfortable with. They were professional, or so I thought, educated, if I'm not mistaken at the time, and I don't remember a whole bunch about it, but at the time I remember this person is either in school for his master's or he had just getting ready or had already finished. Didn't feel a threat at all. Heard nothing but good things about this person. So after the party in this really, really nice hotel, a lot of people, just like most companies do when you're having a holiday party, if they're on the higher end of wanting to pay and compensate their workers and also don't want a whole bunch of their workers getting DUIs, let's be honest, blocked off rooms. Now, I didn't block off room. I didn't take one of the block off rooms because I didn't see the need because I lived in the city and I knew I wasn't going to be drinking. But the guy, because he lived several hours away, decided to get a room. He had a party, after party in his room, and there were at least maybe 10 to 15 people in there. And as time went by, people just started to trickle down and leave. A very good friend of mine whom I had lived with prior to getting my own place had just left with the person that she was with. And so I found that it was just the two of us there. Up until then, we had no discussions about sex or intimacy or anything. I mean, I was 21. I don't think the guy was much older than me. I can't even really remember that. But I didn't feel unsafe. And 21-year-old me felt invincible. I felt like I could pretty much handle and take care of anything. So this man that I felt was confident in his ability to be a good dude, I had no reason to believe that he wasn't. And then the weirdness started. I think I had gone to use the bathroom when I came out. I didn't recognize that the door was locked and that my keys were missing. Basically, what had happened is, in his mind, he formulated this perfect idea of what our evening would look like, even though in my mind it was just, hey, there's this cute guy and this is a great opportunity for us to, hang out. And I didn't think for 1 minute that I was unsafe. He got real close and we talked, and I kind of felt uncomfortable because I was like, why is this guy so close to me, Then I looked around because I thought, well, maybe it's about time to leave. And I realized my keys were gone. And I'm like, where are my keys? And he was like, I got them. And I'm thinking, well, what do you need my keys for? You're not driving my car. He started to get kind of aggressive, trying to get me to force to kiss me. And I'm like, no, I'm out. I'm about to leave. He was like, no, you're not. And I thought, yeah, I am. Because remember now, I wasn't afraid of anything. No one was going to get the jump on me. I always felt that way. I was a fighter by nature. I am a fighter by nature. So why would I be afraid of this guy? But I will say, at that very moment that I realized he was making me feel uncomfortable till I needed to leave, his presence made me aware that I probably wasn't as safe as I thought I was. This guy had to be about maybe 6'4", let's say 240. He wasn't menacing, but his sheer size alone would make you kind of go, yeah, I don't think I'm going to win. And at the time I'm 5'5" now. I've been 5'5". I had 5'5.5", and I probably weighed about maybe 165 pounds at the time. I considered myself to be fit. I was young, but I realized, yeah, I don't think this is the guy that I want to kind of mess with. And he used his sheer strength and his size to pin me down. And after he pinned me down, a lot of this is still kind of fuzzy to me, but we ended up in the bed and he took my clothes off and hid my clothes. And the only thing that came to mind was I remember my mom, who was always very empowering to us, and she taught us how to be a lady and how to respect our body and make sure that people respected our body as well. I remember her saying to me, if you ever find yourself in a position to where you feel like someone's going to harm or rape you, you do whatever it is that you need to survive. I don't care if you hit them over the head with a frying pan. I don't care what you do. You make it out and you come home. And that was always what stuck in my mind. My initial idea of fighting got overcome with the fact of knowing that there was really not much more I could do. I was much smaller and definitely not nearly as strong. So I was pinned down by my wrist, and pressure was put on me through his size. And I remember closing my eyes and thinking, this is about to happen. And even though I just said no, he didn't care. And so I went into this place in my mind that said, I'm listening, Mom. I'm just going to survive. And when it was all over, I remember thinking about how disconnected I felt from the environment that I was in. Like, it was kind of surreal. You know how, I don't know if you've ever had a concussion, because I've had a few. That's other stories to share. But like sometimes if you get a concussion and you hit your head, the sound changes. It's like everything goes into this tunnel vision and sound, and you're kind of like, what's going on right now? And I was totally disconnected from that. And I remember thinking, now I got to get out. Now, remember, my keys are locked up. He had put them in the safe when I didn't realize it. And I think he intentionally took my clothes and put them, like, threw them somewhere. So they were separated. And then now I'm forced to have to get my clothes together. And I guess in his mind, beg for my keys so I could leave. But all I wanted to do was get out. So after he finished doing whatever he felt like he needed to do, he went into the bathroom and went to clean himself up. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to take a shower. I'm thinking, I got to call the cops. And then all these things are running through my mind, but I just didn't know what to do. The only thing I could think was, you've got to get out. So I slowly started to gather my clothes, walked toward the door, and you know how in hotels they have that little latch? I don't even know what they call it, but it's that latch thing that doesn't allow the door to open for more than about 3 inches for security purposes. I slowly pulled the latch while he was in the bathroom because I didn't want him to hear me. And then I unlocked the door. And so at that point, I was already making like the way to exit. I felt my inner badass start to kind of well up. I tiptoed around the room, slowly gathering everything that I needed. And he steps out of the bathroom. He's completely naked. And he just like miraculously puts my keys on the coffee table. And I start to think, what? Just like that? So now I can leave? And that just made me it made me angry because I felt like I got restricted because you did what you wanted to do. He goes back in the bathroom. And again, by this time he's naked. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is the most vulnerable he'll be around me. While he's naked, he more than likely is not going to chase me once I run. So I'm peeking past the door. I'm looking in. I'm like, is it good? Is it time good? I slowly pick up my keys and I start to laugh. I can hear the toilet flush and I can hear the water run. And he goes, what are you laughing about? And I said, I'm laughing at you. He said, why are you laughing at me? And I said, you think you can do whatever you want to do. And he was like, why would you say that? And I said, I didn't want to have sex with you. He said, oh, of course you did. You know you wanted it. I thought, no. So my inner badass just gets even like angrier. And I said, why would I want anything that you have? And he was like, are you kidding me? I said, no, are you kidding me? He said, what is that supposed to mean? And at that very moment, I look at the door and I know that what I'm getting ready to say is going to make him enraged. He's going to be incensed, but I didn't care. I may not have been big enough to overpower him, but as the anger welled up in me about what had just happened, I knew I had to take a stab at him. I wasn't going to let him get off that easily. Okay, this is your moment. Say what you got to say and run like hell. So I began to laugh. I told him, I said, your dick is whack. He said, what? I said, your sex was terrible and it's small. So, yeah. And you're an asshole. And at that very moment, he goes, what did you say? He's pissed. He looks through the door. He kind of looks down like I'm naked, but I got to get her. And I take off. By this time, the only thing I have on is I had on a formal dress. I pick up what I had with me was my shawl, of course, my keys. I had some heels, my underwear, and my bra. Nothing was on me other than my dress. So I was able to get my dress and I'm barefoot. It's the middle of October. It's like the middle of November. I'm freezing. It's freezing cold outside. And I grabbed everything I could. I blew the door open and I ran down the hallway. And I hear him go, come back here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come back. This isn't a cartoon or a movie. I'm getting as far away from you as I possibly can. And I don't remember what floor we were on, but it wasn't like the first or second floor. I knew I had to run down several stairs and I ran all the way down to the emergency exit. And I remember not only was it chilly because it's a hotel hallway, but it was chilly because the second my feet hit the landing to the stairs, they're concrete. So my feet were extra cold and I'm just running and running and running as fast as I could. And I finally make it to the lobby, and to not draw attention to myself, I slip on my shoes and I have no coat, no shawl. I didn't even put my shawl on, and I just ran and got in my car. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. I'm angry. I'm like, all these emotions are running through me. And I put my keys in the ignition and I drive off. And I start thinking, what do I do now? Oh gosh, what do I do? And I start thinking, I got to call the cops. I got to call the cops. And then I thought, well, if I call the cops now, who's going to believe me? They're going to say, what were you doing in that room? Did you have any alcohol? And, it's late. It's because at that time, I think it was probably about 1:00 in the morning. And I sat there and I was thinking all these things. I thought about things going on in my personal life. I thought about my friend that was at in the party with me. And I started going, I don't know what to do. And I just drove and I drove and I drove. And before I knew it, I was home. I was at home. I walked in the house and immediately I took all my clothes off and I jumped in the shower and I wept. I cried because I thought what just happened. And I just cried and cried. And I don't know how many showers I took, but I would say I probably took about 3. Had taken so many showers that my skin was red. And I didn't know what to do. I picked up my phone and was like, I'm going to call the cops. And then I thought, well, I just washed away evidence. I mean, all these things were just running through my mind. And the only thing I could think to do was, when I wake up, it'll be better. The morning will bring new light on what happened to me. And, you know, I think there might have been a small part of me that felt like when I wake up, it'll all be a dream. I know that sounds sort of like delusional, but at that point, everything was so disconnected, nothing really made sense. And I didn't really know what to do. An added layer of this was that during this time, my first marriage was over, but we still weren't legally divorced. And I didn't have the heart to say the next time I spoke to him, you know, I got raped. And then there was also this level of guilt that I felt for me thinking that I put myself in a certain position to where that would happen. And how would he feel? Did he really care? Because we were already having our issues. By that time, we had been separated for close to 2 years and no contact, but, you know, still legally married. And I thought, well, this is messy. And I remember I don't remember the next day very much, but I do remember knowing that I had to go to work that Monday. And I got up as usual, put my clothes on, and went to work like nothing ever happened. Now, of course, in my mind, I knew exactly what happened. I kept thinking about it over in my head, but it was like nothing ever happened. And I did end up telling 2 people, and one of them was a very dear friend of mine at the time, and she just was ready to fight anytime she could. And of course, she was just like, he better not show his face. I'll beat his, you know, she went through. And there was another friend of mine, a guy that I knew. He was tiny and he just thought he could fight anybody. He was like, if I see that dude, I'm gonna bust him in the face. And I'm like, you're not going to do any of that. But I also didn't know what to tell them to do. And, you know, my friend was like, hey, you need to go to the cops. And I'm thinking the same thing I thought by myself, who's going to believe me? And I remember about 2 months had passed, maybe about a month and a half, 2 months had passed. And, you know, he didn't come back. And I thought, well, maybe he knew better. And then I go into the break room one day and my girlfriend is warning me before I go all the way into the break room. She says, hey, he's here. I'm ready to say something. And I looked and I'm like, no, don't say anything at all. So we walk into the break room and she screams, hey, you see me? She's saying it like, yo, I know what you did. I know what you did. She puts the 2 fingers up and she's looking at him like, until you do right by me kind of look. And I remember thinking the audacity of this man coming back in here as if nothing ever happened. And I looked at him in the face and he turned away like he couldn't even look at me in the face. And we left the break room. I didn't stay, obviously. You know, I was a little shaken, but I wasn't broken at that point because I think a lot of that was not denial, but it was more so being numb from the incident. And I thought about it later and I thought, if he comes back, I don't know what I'll do. And he never came back after that. I don't even know what happened to him. I don't even remember his name. I'm sure a lot of that comes from me making whatever concerted effort, or my brain protecting itself, making a concerted effort to not remember anything other than that. But what I do remember is the feeling of isolation and knowing that at some point I was going to have to live with that. Fast forward about, I'd say maybe 5 years. By that time I'm divorced and life has moved on, and I don't even remember what it was that happened. I don't know if I was watching a movie or driving and I could have been passing a schoolyard watching kids play. Who knows what it was, but I had this kind of flashback. I don't know. I would say more like a moment, like a daydream moment where you kind of think back and go, what was that? And around that time, then I started having dreams, and I started having what some people would call daydream visions. And the incident started to come back to me. And I thought, what do I do with this? And then the other part of me is like, well, where's this been? And it was never so much that I forgot about it. It's just I genuinely believe in the science and the research that says that your brain does what it has to do to survive, and it compartmentalizes what it doesn't need and brings to the forefront the things that it does. And by that stage in my life, my brain said, okay, now you can deal with this, but I really wasn't 100% ready to deal with it. As the years passed and I went to therapy and, had partners come and go out of my life, I made sure that if I was at a certain stage in our relationship that I could tell them, because I felt like they needed to know. That's something that I felt like I owed to myself, to not so, as so many people would say, hey, why are you telling your business? This is a private topic. And I think that's also the reason why perpetrators of the violence, as well as victims who get shamed, it continues to happen because no one wants to talk about it. I mean, but it happens. And so now, 21, almost 20 years later, close to 18 years later, I can have an open conversation about it. And I feel it my duty, not only as a woman, not only as a daughter and a friend, as a feminist, as a human being, that being quiet about something that affects so many people, and not just women. Men can experience rape, but it also affects families. It also affects the relationship between people who decide that they want to couple up and start their lives and continue their lives together. This is baggage. This is something that you have to learn how to deal with. And it's hard to deal with it yourself and then have to explain it to another person. I can say that as a survivor, it is also difficult to explain yourself. Some people will say, well, you don't have to. No, but I should be able to without feeling attacked or belittled or minimized. And as you've seen on the news and, dealing with politics, that so many people take it upon themselves to act like it didn't happen. Or, are you sure you remember? Well, what if you're wrong? Or, do you know what this could do to this person's life? And I always, in my mind, I think, well, do you know what it did to my life? Shouldn't we all be able to experience life without the threat of harm, without the idea of knowing that someone feels more empowered or more in control to do what it is that they want to do to you without you having any say in it? Survivors of rape and sexual assault are your neighbors. They're your friends. They're your coworkers. They're the person that's in the carpool line next to you as you wait for your children as they wait for theirs. They're human, just like you. They're humans that had a bad thing happen to them. People who experience sexual assault and rape are not broken. We need support, we need help, and we need a voice. So today, that's exactly why I have shared my story with the entire world. Because when you think about it, anybody who has a smart device or the internet can listen to this, and that's a good thing. It's a voice that needs to be heard. Discussions surrounding sexual assault and rape can be difficult. They should be difficult, but they need to be had. The voices of those who can't do what I've done today need to be heard. They need to be accepted. They should actually be revered. Rape and the idea of the power and control behind it is what makes it pervasive. It's what makes it insidious. It's what makes it stick around because no one wants to fight the boogeyman. No one wants to lurk in the shadows. But it happens. And so let's be better people. Let's be a better environment, a better community, and support those who've experienced something that can be horrendous, that's life-altering. But there is hope on the other side. We can live fulfilled, happy lives. But we need help. And you can choose to be that help by listening and growing yourself and saying, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, but I want to learn. I want to learn how to support the lady in my neighborhood who got raped, or my sister, or my friend. As usual, thank you for taking this journey with me. You could have spent 25 minutes anywhere else in the world at this time, but you spent it with me, and I'm very appreciative. Stay tuned for next week's episode of the Silver Fox Journal Podcast. Until then.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.